Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Cape Rugby TV. It is Wednesday night, as usual, 9 o'clock. I suppose you've heard that line a few times. We're now into episode 43 in our third season. That's put us on about 120 plus shows of rugby on the Cape Rugby TV show. Fantastic panel this evening, some guests that we've been dying to get in the show as usual. So let me start off with, we'll sort of get the riff-raff out the way. Morgan Newman, how are you?
How's it, Jeff? Yeah, I'm an old head now at this, so yeah, good to be back and thanks for having me.
Folks, special guest on the show with us this evening has just been appointed to the SARU, or at least the Sanzar rugby panel. Marius van der Westhuizen. Hello, Marius.
Good, JP. Good to be here.
Well, you're incidentally, you're one of the first guys to have been involved in the show because you do technical stuff, or used to do, I don't know if you still do it, and you gave us some footage to help us start off our scenes.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I've obviously watched the progress of the program as it's gone on, and it's now good to be on the other side of it.
And I don't really know exactly what his title is. Head of Sports Management at the High Performance Centre at Westhuizen Rugby, the Chief Kicking Coach, Head of Coaching and Kicking, Greg Hechter. Greg, long overdue we get on the show, but you're the Head of HPC as well as the Chief Kicking Coach.
Thanks, James. Good to be back. Yes, now I'm the head of the kicking department at Western Province, but also managing the conditioning department is my other hat, yeah.
All right, so you got your hands full. I mean, today kicking isn't just about kicking. Today is about kicking is 90% of the game.
Yeah, I think if you've watched the games over the weekend, you'll see it's a massive part and influences results these days. So it is a massive part of the modern game. I'm sure we'll get into it later in the show.
Yeah, no, we definitely will. We'll be looking at the show tonight. We'll look at international results. We'll take a look at some of the club events taking place. Of course, the JP Peterson incident, which so many of you commented on the Facebook page, the Cape Rugby TV Facebook page. We'll touch on that scenario. We look forward to some more feedback from you guys if you've got it. We'll take a look at some of the international rugby. Varsity Cup Sevens, this is a big one that's coming up at Camps Bay on the 29th through to the 1st of December. The Varsity Cup Sevens at Camps Bay, as well as the Varsity Volleyball, which is on the beach. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I think this is going to come up and be very exciting getting down to Camps Bay. I remember back in the day when Clifton, the Springboks, used to do the tug of war against the Clifton Lifesavers. So that was the Clifton Beach Challenge, and it looks like the Sevens guys are reviving that now. So you want to check out some good rugby, or at least Sevens rugby, you want to get down to Camps Bay on the 29th of November through to the 1st of December. A whole weekend, action-packed weekend of rugby. And then, of course, some great competitions coming up during the show. Remember, Evox Advanced Nutrition, the official sports nutrition supplier of Western Province Rugby and the DHL Stormers. You'll win for yourself a Synergy Whey protein as well as a Shaker 600. We'll give you an opportunity to win yourself a Amaboka rugby ball as well as a Lexar flash drive. Let's quickly take a look at the international results over the weekend. And it was South Africa up against Scotland, 28-0 at Murrayfield. Australia took on Ireland, 32-15. Tonga, well, they went down to France, as expected, 38-18. England going down to New Zealand, 30-22. Wales, 46 over Argentina. And Fiji, well, they lost to Italy, 37 points to 31 at Cremora. Well, that's Cremona, otherwise known as Cremora. It's not inside, it's on top. But certainly the team that was on top there was Italy on the night. Morgs.
Yeah. Look, it's not inside, it's on top. So yeah, no, good international results, and yeah, South Africa winning, and that's the most one that worries me.
Is there a parrot in there? Can I just say that?
Yeah, that's what I have. Just repeating what you said.
Yes. Okay. So yeah.
Okay.
So there is a parrot in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I should present the show this time.
I'm beginning to think it's a good idea because I need to take a bit of a break.
Yeah, no, look, over the festive season, I have no problem taking the mic. I think people they've had enough of your voice for the past 42 episodes. So the 40, maybe we should seriously look into that.
Change is as good as a holiday.
Exactly, it's as good as a holiday. But speaking about holidays, you've had a good fishing holiday, Greg.
Yeah, I've had a time off since the Curry Cup. As you can see, I've put on my winter disguise to get away from the Curry Cup.
I just got to ask you before you tell us about the fishing. Did you take your rods with you?
One. I use our physio Wayne Hector's got plenty, so he's the proper fisherman. I just tag along and keep the boat full.
You went up there with Wayne?
We went up with Wayne and a few of his friends for 4 or 5 days of fishing on the Breede. A beautiful part of the country, lovely ecosystem, a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had your other partner in crime, Steph de Toyer, on the show last week. But you guys are a good team of management, but also off the field, you're good friends, all of you.
I think it's important. The team dynamics in our setup are quite good. We're all similar ages. We get on really well. Obviously very professional when it comes to the aspects of the game that are important or that we're responsible for. But we are good friends off the field and like to go and play golf or go fishing in this case together. and just spend time away from the game together, which is nice.
Speaking about golf, we're going to have to bring the referee into it here. Marius van Westhuizen, you were playing, from what I understand, at +2, which for people who are not involved in golf is better than a scratch at one stage. Are you still very active in golf?
Not really as much. I'm playing off a 6 at the moment, so it's still handy to get around. But yeah, as a lot younger, I played a lot of golf, and yeah, not as much now. Rugby is keeping me pretty busy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I mean, what do you guys do in your spare time? Because I've seen you guys, and I know we've spoken about Jonathan Kaplan. We've spoken about the refs before. You guys will quite often you'll referee a match in the morning. You'll do a school rugby match. Then in the afternoon you'll quickly do a club rugby match, and then you'll come and still officiate at Newlands. I mean, how do you guys get through so much activity? Not to mention the fact that you might even do something on a Wednesday club game.
Yeah, I think the reality is that there's not enough referees in Cape Town, not enough referees in South Africa. So we're actually forced to ref more than one game on a weekend. And yeah, we're lucky in the sense that schoolboy rugby in province is really strong. So you can get a good schoolboy game out and then a good club game as well. And that's awesome, and that just puts you in good stead going forward to Currie Cup and to Vodacom Cup and Varsity Cup and all those competitions.
Is refereeing a little bit like rugby? Do you have to ref? The more you ref, the better you get at it. You must get in as much game time as possible.
Definitely, I think it's like any player as well. You lose form in certain aspects of the game, and it's not clear why. Yeah. But it's like golf, it's like rugby, it's like cricket. And refereeing as well, you're in and out of form, and the more you do it, if you're out of form, say at scrum time or at the breakdown, it's just good to get in the mix and just ref a couple of games, maybe some lower standard games, just where it happens a bit slower, so that you can just get your vibe back and then back into it.
South Africa against Scotland over the weekend. We're going to touch on that in a second. Australia beating Ireland 32-15. Not a great win. I think the Australian guys went and had one party too much prior to that game, and they've been punished accordingly. But an expected result?
I don't know. I don't know if I really agree with that. I mean, it's that the Australian team has they've gone through a bit of a tough year. I think they've really, as we spoke about a few episodes back, they've gone through a bit of a transition phase now, and to an island side who also one of the form sides of the Northern Hemisphere. To beat them, I mean, Quade Cooper's now find some form all of a sudden, and that the team, I mean, they scored some really good tries, so especially after the shenanigans that they were up to, during the middle of the week, I think it was a good result for Australia, and it bodes well going into 2014.
France beat Tonga 38-18 over the weekend. Greg, France playing great rugby at the moment. They're showing against the All Blacks. Didn't go their way on the day, obviously, but I mean, they were always going to beat Tonga, but France is clearly a challenge in the box of taking them on.
Yeah, obviously we hope which French team pitches up on the day. They are a little bit more consistent nowadays than they were probably a couple of years back. Obviously a lot of foreigners playing in their league, so I think it'll be a proper test for the box on Saturday. But I should imagine we'll get through it. I think our pack's far too strong for them. And
then of course New Zealand took on England over the weekend as well. And at one stage there, Marius, did you watch the game?
Yeah, I did.
Did you at any stage think, hang on, England might take this?
I thought, after what happened last year in the same fixture, I thought it was in the balance, and then just like all good teams, 65th minute, they just pulled it out there, and they're a quality side, but I think it was a lot more closer than what New Zealand would have wanted it to be.
Can you see that as a referee? Can you see on the field when a quality team, 6 years ago, the Stormers used to like you guys used to flop everything in the last 20 minutes and just wouldn't. But now you have this ability to take it through to 80 minutes. Greg, you guys know how to close that last part of the game off. You're more patient. It's a much more stable game for Providence at the moment.
No, definitely. I think we did go through quite a long sort of phase where we lost the close games. I feel we're in the position now, the last 3 or 4 seasons with the close games we managed to pull off. But yeah, obviously it's a maturity thing, it's a discipline thing, and also understanding what needs to be done under pressure. Yeah. And that comes with an experienced group of players, which the All Blacks do have at the moment,
So Marius, to get back to you then, can you, as a ref, can you see it in a team that, like, hang on, these guys are going to up the game now? Or, what's it feel like as a ref? What can you see? Can you see the vibe? Can you see, hang on, these guys, like, you say, for example, the Crusaders, you know that they're going to come back at the end of every game.
Yeah, I think it's a quality side that they can control the tempo like they want, and there's a couple of sides in South Africa that do it as well, which is it's quite apparent, and they just play the game at the tempo that they want to play it, and you even see it at the varsity cup level with Tikkies. If they want to control the game, they do, and Marius,
Really?
if they want to control, they do it. So
Yeah.
I mean that's just the quality sides.
Which games do you have to be the fittest for as a ref? Varsity Cup, club rugby, or I mean, I know club rugby you have to run away a lot, but, so you might have to be quite fit there. But I also know that at club rugby quite often you have chauffeurs there to drive you away from club rugby, so that's taken care of. But Morgs,
No, I'm just laughing at your chauffeur comment there,
at
James.
my extreme wit and humour,
It's not that funny. I don't know why I'm still laughing at your jokes of the 42 episodes, but
because
yeah.
it is my extreme wit and humour. That's what I don't get paid for. Okay, back to you, Marius. Before Morgan starts giggling a little again, going, I don't know if these things are tickling him on the side here. All right, so which games do you need to be the fittest for?
I think each game is different. Obviously, sevens, it's quite a good fitness that you need to maintain there. But Currie Cup and Super Rugby, it's consistent. It's a good pace for 80 minutes. And as I said, the teams control the pace as they want. I mean, each game is different. Varsity Cup, you need a really good fitness as well because it's just a couple of young guys just running for 80 minutes. And
Apparently, they've got 2 refs now for the Varsity Cup next year, 2 on the field.
they will be. Yeah, it's something that we've tried at Stellenbosch for a number of years, and it works quite well. And
Sorry to interrupt you, didn't they do 2 refs in Corsairs Rugby for a while?
it is, yeah. That's in Corsairs Rugby, and that was one of my first games that I actually refereed as well. As we walked onto the field and there were 2. And the one guy said, "Well, you're doing all right," so he just left. And so, I mean, that's the luxury you've got with 2. But I think it's going to add a lot of value to the tournament, Varsity Cup next year, and it's going to be interesting. But I think it's a good initiative.
Excellent stuff. Right, of course, the other matches was Wales beating Argentina, and then Italy took on Fiji. Let's just quickly talk about the South African performance over the weekend. We're going to talk about the JP Peterson incident coming up in a couple of minutes. But the South African performance, I think Heineken may agree. He'd be happy with that kind of result. A little bit sad that Frans Malherbe came off injured, but he'd be happy with his performance. I mean, he clearly had a game plan at the beginning there. He was going to put Willem Alberts on, he was going to put Bakkies Poorter on, he was just going to drive it up the front and wear these guys down.
No, definitely, JP. I think, to go to Murrayfield and shut the Scots out without conceding a point, 28-0 is a phenomenal performance considering, Frans Malherbe, Tartet playing in his first test. A couple of new faces, Patrick Lambie starting at Flav, those changes, Bakkies back after a long sojourn with our test rugby. I think you'd have been ecstatic with that result.
Was there any stage in the game, because for me there was, that like first 10 minutes I thought, this Willie Leroux Oak must get off the field now. This is just a disaster waiting to happen. Was there any stage in the game, because we know what happened after that, was there any stage in the game that you felt that?
Look, we all know what you're getting. He's a bit of a jack in the box, and he is an X-factor player. Unfortunately, he's going to make mistakes, and the day that it comes wrong, he will make mistakes and possibly lose a test match. But, he's got a lot of stable players in and around him. Jean de Villiers, Jacques Fourie make very few mistakes, which frees him up to produce or to give to the game what Heineken picks him for. And I thought he was phenomenal taking the opportunities that presented itself on the weekend.
Yeah, and I think probably most importantly is that him coming into the Springbok fold at fullback now is that he's managed to free up Zane Kirshner to go and contribute to the world of rugby elsewhere. Right, of course, the Springboks thumping the Scots over the weekend, but it's not going to be an easy one this weekend. France taking on France, and hopefully the field will be in better condition. Although start the France, how much difference does it make, this pitch, Craig? You're a kicking coach, you know what it's like. I mean, I suppose when you're kicking that ball, you could be stepping into a divot. As a backline player, it's all sorts of things going on there with these poor fields.
I must admit, it's been quite disappointing to see. Obviously, it is the Northern Hemisphere. Their weather conditions are slightly different. We were really fortunate in Super Rugby and Currie Cup Rugby in South Africa. We play on quality pitches all around the Southern Hemisphere, and to play on a pitch, especially the one at the Millennium Stadium against Wales, didn't look good at all. But obviously, the players get out there on the day before the game. They prepare for it. So it's the same for both teams. I don't think it's a major influence.
Yeah. Well, from a spectator point of view, it looks lousy.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look great. I mean, Marius, you guys, the referee has the sole discretion on the field, if I'm not mistaken. At which stage do you decide? Do you move the scrum away from a bad spot, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the safety of the players. So obviously you want to get a completed scrum. So if you feel that it's not safe or that the chances of the scrum not completing is good, then you just move it. And I think the most important thing is the safety of the players.
Okay. All right, so it is all about the safety of the players. Folks, we're going to take an ad break. When we come back, we'll start talking about the JP Peterson incident. Don't go away. This topic is going to get hot. We'll be back with you in a sec. Right, so hello and welcome back, everybody. Cape Rugby TV, of course it is, 9 o'clock Wednesday night. Remember, find us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Cape Rugby TV. And as you would know on Facebook, the topic that went out over the weekend in the match where JP Peterson played his 50th match against the Scots over the weekend and ran onto the field with a fair amount of pride. And there was an incident on the field where he put a fantastic tackle in and then decided to shove his hand in the face of the player that he tackled and rub it into the grass. And we asked the public, we asked you, what did you think, how did you feel about it? Anyway, some of the Facebook comments, let's take a look and see what it was that you said. Franco Kutsia says, Julian, why Western Province Club Rugby? It happens all over. Get a life. Siraj Alawi, rush of blood, nothing much in it. Chade Martinez, so if people say it's right to do, then the primary school children will do the same. Julian Price says, so unnecessary, especially after his great try, and it was his 50th game. Now people will only remember that. Silly. Shahim Khalan says, unnecessarily rough. Peter Bernardi says, disappointing, so uncalled for especially when you're dominating a game and behaving like a schoolyard bully. Marcur Safur says, that's how rugby is played, but like I said, it was watching a game and great tackle. Pierre Cronier says, not in the spirit of the game, so not proud of the shove in the face by JP. He's more proud of Dave Denton for not retaliating and getting on with the game. Anton de Toue says, rugby is not for sissies. Jan Semple says, it's part of the game. Calvin William Smith says, great tackle. And Bonnie Vincent Saini says, it's all part of the game, but not a good example to the youngsters. Andre van Wyk went on to say that's just a message of try again and no harm was done. After all, it was a great hit and one that he himself has done for 30 years of playing rugby. Same result every time. Amir Ulnur says that's standard in rugby. Everybody's done it to them or doing it to themselves, so no problem. Khamil Din says thuggish, but that's his normal behavior. He's been doing it for years. Renzo Botpan went on to say totally unnecessary, and this is for an international player, and yes, he is an All Black supporter. Keenan Bayer says the tackle was outstanding, but the face rubbing at least is high school bullish. So those are your Facebook comments, and the question there was, of course, how do you feel about the JP Peterson smashing or at least call it smashing, call it a rub. There's different phrases that we use. It's a little bit of a handoff into the grass. So clearly different schools are thought on this. Many of you feel it's just part of rugby. Many of you feel it was totally unnecessary. And some of you feel that it was totally uncalled for. Okay, so the question that we have here, and we did have this debate a little bit off air, is, Morgs, let's start with you. I see you're already laughing. You're a rugby player. You're on the field all the time. You're straight up, your opinion.
It's a difficult one. After having listened to our discussion before the show started, I think I may have changed my opinion a little bit, but I'll stick by what I think. I think it's.
Okay, well, you don't need to change your opinion. What was your opinion?
No,
before
I'm
the
saying,
show started?
I'm going to stick with my opinion that I think it's part of the game. I mean, it's a man's sport, and we know if you want to get one up in the other guy, you kind of expect it. I mean, if a guy smoked me like that and he put the hand in my face, I'd quietly walk away with my tail between my legs and look at, smashing in a tackle the next time round. So, it's a little bit of argy-bargy, and I think it's, at the end of the day, we've got to get on with the job, just play the game and make it physical.
So once you've hit him and smashed him in the tackle, which clearly now you have smashed him in the tackle, so you've made your point. What are the different methods that you can use to actually make your point after you've smashed him in the tackle? You then smash him in the face with a hand?
No,
or
well,
do you
look,
elbow him in the throat? Do you headbutt him? Say, there you go, boy. Just want to remind you that I smashed you in the tackle.
Look, I mean, legally, I think there's very little you can do other than in the tackle. But at the same time, I mean, for those guys that play rugby and for those guys that have been involved in rugby for long enough, I think for the viewer out there, it's obviously it's a no-no, But I mean, if it's in the game, I'm telling you now, what happens at the bottom of rucks is 10 times worse than what you've just seen on TV. So it's not promoted, but it's part of the game.
No, but let's get on. It's just been promoted in front of billions of people on TV. and it's been promoted by a player who's just played 50 test matches for the Springboks. Greg, your opinion?
Yeah, let's start with the tackle. It was a phenomenal tackle, JP. Whether we can say there's a little bit of unnecessary roughness afterwards, yes, probably not what you want to see, and not a good example to young people watching out there. In saying that, the touch judge was right there, the ref was right there, and they had no problem. It was his way of just sort of exerting his dominance a little bit further over the player, and with so many cameras at that standard of rugby on you, that's probably all he can get away with in terms of not getting any repercussions against him further.
Okay, so well, as you said, the touch judge was right there and the referee was right there, but we've got one of the world's leading referees with us right now as well, Marius van der Westhuizen. Marius, of course, just been selected to the Sanzo rugby panel, will be adjudicating some of the Super 15 matches next year. Marius, are you allowed to put your hand in a player's face after you've tackled them and rub it into the grass?
No, I think it's something that you don't. I wouldn't condone it. I'd just say, listen, get on with the game. I think the fact it was unnecessary, and I think the fact that he smoked him in the tackle should have been enough. He's a professional sportsman. Just get up and just walk away. It's as simple as that.
But is it legal or is it illegal?
No, it's illegal.
It's illegal.
It's illegal, and
so okay. Then let me hang on. I'm going to stop you there. Then, Morgan, you primarily said it. You said. You can only do so much within the law.
Look, I mean, I don't think it. I'm not by no means trying to say that it's legal what he did. I mean,
you can't because it's illegal.
Yeah. So I mean, Marius has confirmed that it's illegal. What I'm trying to say is that, as a rugby player, and having played at the highest level, these things happen, and you get
illegal things.
There's illegal things that happen. Yes. I mean, there's 1,000 cameras around.
So don't
illegal
you think
things
he should have
happen.
got a card for that?
Well, if the referee saw it, then it was up to the referee's discretion. But having said that, no, I don't think he should have got a card. I think he got a little bit of warning and a penalty against him and off and let the game carry on.
So, I think, Greg, you've got an opinion there?
Yeah, I don't think I condoned it in my first statement. But anyway, I agree with Morgan. I think possibly to say unnecessary, go back for 10, give the Scots a penalty, all's forgiven.
Okay, so I mean, because if it's illegal, then obviously what he did was illegal and he's not allowed to do it. But if it is legal, then I think you must practice it more often.
Yeah, I think if these sort of little incidents happen in the game over and over, those are the little incidents that cause a flare-up later on, and then a guy punches someone else or kicks someone else and gets sent off and get a red card. So, obviously Marius would be better informed to answer that. But to handle those little indiscretions that happen during a game better and to stop them boiling over, possibly should have happened in that incident.
I mean, like Morg said, these kind of things happen. There's a little bit of argy-bargy and it's not too serious. But isn't this the perfect way to provoke a player to take a punch?
Yeah, probably 100%, yeah.
Okay,
so I think hats off. I think some of those comments that you saw there, hats off to the Scot. I mean, he probably couldn't breathe. That's why he didn't do anything after the tackle. But he didn't react, which was good on his part.
Yeah. Because, I mean, Marius, from what you're saying, it would be kind of unfair that here's a guy smashing your face into the ground, like grass burn style, and he gets up and he throws a punch. He's been provoked illegally, but if he was to throw a punch back, he'd be the guy getting sent off.
Yeah, I think it's you make a very valid point, and Greg makes a very valid point as well. I think for me, a penalty would have been enough. It's like not every punch is a red card. I mean, it's just a case of get on with the game. It's totally unnecessary, penalty against you, and away you go. And I think the big lesson that we've got to learn out of that is you've got 12 and 13-year-old kids watching the rugby, and if we condone that, that's what's going to happen every weekend and every Wednesday on a under 13 game or an under 13 game or under 15 game, and that's something we don't want in the game. So let's just deal with it and get on with the game.
So to the people out there that are saying, well, it's just part of rugby and rugby's a tough game, it's very hard for them to understand maybe that when you're watching TV rugby, you're surrounded by fences, you're surrounded by referees, you're surrounded by television, and you can shove a guy's hand in the face in the grass like that, and not much is going to happen. Well, clearly in this case. But when that happens in a club rugby environment, which is something that we're trying to not do, and certainly me as a potential sponsor, or even as a television producer, I can't put that in the club rugby space on TV because it's just going to encourage more people to do it because they think it's cool to do. I don't know, Greg.
I think a lot of old school people will say, look, yeah, they're making the game for the season. They've taken rucking out the game, and now they don't allow this. Where's this game going to? I think there's enough opportunities within a rugby match to exert your dominance. It's still a game where there's a contest for the ball, and there's an opportunity to show dominance over your opponent in a number of areas, whether that be in the tackle, in the ruck, or obviously the set piece is a massive contest for forwards especially. So I feel, there's enough places in the game legally to where you can show your dominance over an opponent. So that sort of thing, it needs to be shut up.
I get what you're saying, and I think we're all sort of heading towards the same thing here. But I just cannot visualize, and this is why what worries me is, JP Peterson. He's a respected player. He clearly has a huge following, and there's kids out there who completely admire him, and he's their idol. And they would have seen that on Saturday, and on their own game, then be it at a local school game, they would then maybe try practice the JP Peterson move. Now, I can tell you something, that if another child did that to my child on the field, there'll be other moves. And as a parent, I wouldn't want to see that being done to my child. I don't know.
100%.
I just think we've seen so much worse things happen on a rugby field. A high tackle is so much worse than a push against the back of the head, that I don't feel the need to make a big thing out of a little push against the back of the head when we're seeing, we all know when there's a drive, or when Eben Etzebeth takes the ball out of the top of the line out and he hands it to the little Moore, and the other lock goes down and he's all over the neck, over the face, trying to get him out, trying to make his way through the rack. We've all seen these things happen. For me, that's a lot worse than little how's your mom push on the back of the head after a good hit, So I think we've got to also make sure that we don't overemphasize something that is really, in reality, was harmless, and we mustn't go away from the fact that rugby is a contact sport. A little bit of argy-bargy never hurt anybody, and let's get on with the game.
But Morgs, the reality of the matter is that if you had to do that at a club game, you stand a very good chance of that entire club field storming the field if you did it to one of their players. And we can't have those kind of trigger moments.
Well, let me tell you, I'm playing club rugby for the last 2 years now, and
I can see that.
Without mentioning clubs' names, a lot worse happens to me week in and week out than a little push on the back of the head.
But that is exactly, Morgs.
And JP Peterson is not in this situation. He's by no means try to eye gouge, try to scratch, he's pushed on the back of the head.
I'll tell you why a lot worse happens to you on the side, on a field. It's because we've got into the habit of condoning this kind of JP Peterson behavior. That's why it has escalated, and you guys have started to get used to it. You can't get used to this kind of behavior. It shouldn't be there, period. And that's part of the problem in club rugby, is we're starting to say, and we even saw some of the comments on the show there, where people said, well, it's just part of the game, it's just part of the game. We've become desensitized. And we have to stop saying, well, it's just part of the game, because otherwise these things that you say that are worse will just keep happening to you in club rugby.
JP, I think it's a big part of the game is how you handle that. And if you think back of guys like Sean Fitzpatrick, who everyone loves to hate in this country, and but in how now it's a JP Peterson push. But what happens about things that are said? How you control that? Because it's about getting under somebody's skin. And when that person cracks and throws a punch or does something and gets a red card, you're the one laughing back because he couldn't handle your niggle. So there is a niggle. Let's face it. There's niggle in every rugby match, whether that's verbal or in this case the odd push or something that happens, like Morg said earlier, in a ruck when the cameras aren't watching. But the good players get away with it, and the guy who reacts to it is the one that caught on camera, and they seem, look at this idiot,
And to add to that, if we bring in the argument of he's now setting the example for what happens, a lot more good happens at Super 15 or Vodacom Cup or international rugby. A lot more good happens than what we're seeing on a weekend at club rugby level. So if they're going to take one little push and go and practice that, then where are they learning all the other things that are happening from first-hand experience on the weekends at club level?
So let me just make ask you guys one more question, because as you know, I come from a different sporting background, and we were told all my life I was taught it's about focus, and you channel your aggression. Now, if you were thinking about side shows and how I'm going to swear at this guy's mother afterwards, and I'm going to swear at his auntie and his uncle, and when he's finished, I'm going to say something more. All this energy, all this negative stuff has taken you away from what you're supposed to be focusing on. And whereas you could be focusing 100% on making the tackle, worrying about the drill, you know, he actually took his eye off the ball, off the game there a little bit. For that split second, he was thinking like, hey, you know, I've got the upper hand there. Whereas he could be thinking more about his drill, his line, and that. So in another sporting space, people are taught you don't do that. You focus your aggression and your energy into whatever sport it is. Let's wrap this up. Is it the kind of thing that we condone on the rugby field? Yes or no, Morgs?
No.
Correct.
No, I think it's the ref's prerogative to sort of handle it within the space of that game. Yeah.
And Marius, I'm assuming you can't condone it all because you've just told us that it's illegal.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I agree with Morgan and with Greg. It shouldn't be in the game, and I think a lot more positive can come out if they just focus their energy on the right stuff.
Right, folks, that is the end of the JP Peterson conversation. And why did we bring this up? Because we understand that these things do happen in the game, and they tend to get overlooked as just part of the game. But what you have to remember is that in the club rugby space, in the community rugby space, that little thing that we tend to overlook on the one side can escalate into something that's much worse. You, as a parent, would not want to see your child get smashed in the face in that manner. So if that you don't want to see it done to your child, we suggest don't encourage your children to do it to other children. So in summary, don't do it. It's not good for the game, and we certainly don't want things to escalate at club rugby level. You don't need to be telling people about your ma and about their race or their religion and rubbing their face in the grass. Otherwise, you are quite simply never going to get sponsors, you're not going to get respect, you're never going to get on TV, you're never going to improve because you're just not focusing on the game. It's not necessary. As much as you'd like to do it and as much as we think it's sometimes funny, don't do it. We'll take an ad break. When we come back, we'll start taking a look at some of the incidents in and around Western Province Rugby, and of course we'll tell you more about the Varsity Sevens that's happening on the 29th of November at Camps Bay through to the 1st of December. We'll be back with you guys in a sec. Welcome back, folks. Yes, interesting discussions here on the Cape Rugby TV show this evening, but nice to have you along. Remember, Facebook, www.facebook.com/Cape Rugby TV. Next week, on Thursday, of course on Wednesday next week, we'll have our normal show, but look out for the Cape Town TV Telethon. We're going to ask a number of celebrities to come in and join us on the sports section of Cape Town TV's Telethon. We'll have 7 or 8 people on the panel. It'll be a live show, and it's going to be very exciting. You'll be able to call in and help Cape Town TV, which is of course a community TV channel, raise funds for the benefit of better broadcasting for the communities, which is of course what we do here at Cape Rugby TV. Right, let's take a look at some of the action happening in and around Western Province. There's a referees course. This is level 1 that's coming up at Hechter Belleville on Saturday the 23rd of November 2013. The time there, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Cost is R150 to join the Referee Society, and then R75 just to attend the course. Very reasonable. Make sure you get down there, and that's of course the Western Province Rugby Referee Society. Marius, let's ask you a little bit about that. I mean, that's once you're a member of the Referee Society, then you're in the picture as a referee.
Yeah, I mean, then you once you've done all your courses, then you can start refereeing at any level basically, and then normally we start at schoolboy level and then go through club rugby. We've got so many divisions in Western Province, and then the main goal, obviously, if you're at a young age and want to aspire to get to the top level, is just to get into Division 1 of Western Province. And if you do that, then you'll referee the Super League A and Super League B.
Okay, so just tell us, what is a level 1 course? Because one of the problems I believe we have, is South African rugby has not spent enough time marketing becoming a referee into the communities. I think we see it on the glitz and the glamour and the places where people can afford, but we need more people to come out of the club space, more to come out of the community space, more to come out of the school space to become referees. We really need to recruit them there. So that's where your opportunity now, folks. If you're watching the show, then get out there. All right. We know that you play club rugby. We know that many of you have just stopped playing club rugby, and you want to stay involved. Refereeing can be a real joy because you can get to watch people like JP Peterson smash people in the face and just watch it and do nothing about it. So you can actually, it's great fun. Become a referee. Let's ask Marius, what is a referee level 1 coaching course?
It's basically just the start. So you'll just get to know the basic laws, and they'll show you basic positioning, and from there onwards you'll move through the ranks and then do level 2. And
What's
then
basic positioning?
Just where you need to stand at the
It's
scrum.
a family show, right? Keep it nice, just keep it clean, okay?
Just where you need to stand at the breakdown, just not to get in the player's way, and
Okay.
at scrum time and best position. It's just best practices for you. Just
Have you ever seen like a really clumsy referee that's always in the player's way?
yeah, it happens. I mean, as I said, you lose a bit of form at some stage, and then you're in the way, and you don't quite get the feel of the game, so you don't get into the right positions. It happens to everyone.
Greg, what's your funniest refereeing moment that you've ever seen? Can you think of
Nothing, nothing offhand really. Yeah.
Morgs?
It's probably one I've seen on TV when the referee got tackled by one of the spectators.
Oh,
when was that?
Richie
In
McCaw,
2000 and
when Richie McCaw had to pull
Yeah.
Pit Van Sale, was it?
Pit
Yeah,
Van
Pit
Sale,
Van
I
Sale
think he
tackle.
got like a 10-year lifetime ban or something like that. Anyway, you see now, folks, that's what can happen. You see, we're going to watch Pit Van Sale. He runs on the field and he tackles the referee, and we go, hell, that's cool. The ref probably deserved it. Okay, now everyone must just do it. I guess you can't let this happen. Right, we've got to draw the line, you know. You guys, are we on the same page here, folks?
You win 4-0.
4-0. Okay, listen. Okay, so just from a refereeing point of view, starting at the beginning, the kids, how do you, what would you suggest if you want to become a referee? And forget about now how to sign up and that. Why would you become a referee?
First of all, JP, just about your comment about recruitment, I think Western Province have done exceptionally well through Bentron as the referee manager with a scholar program.
Yeah.
They've put probably 300 schoolboys through the system, and they just gradually come into the club rugby scene then once they've out of school. And as well as SA Rugby, they've got an unbelievable recruitment campaign, become a referee. And it's great because we've seen the numbers in the last 3-4 years just grow, and which is good. As I mentioned earlier, we've got 250, 300 games in a week in Western Province, and we've only got 180 refs. So if you do the
But
math,
that's my point. I mean, it's a fantastic recruit. You know, done the recruitment, but we need so many more.
no, exactly. I mean, we never have enough. So I think the bottom line is get involved. It's basically the front row seat to the rugby game.
Is it exciting for you? I mean, we've heard Jonathan Kaplan talk about it. Absolute legend of refereeing. I've spoken to Nigel Owens about it also, as you know. Is it exciting for you when you're on the field, or are you so focused on the game?
No, it's great. I mean, I was fortunate enough to do the Hong Kong Sevens final with 45,000 crazy people, and it's probably one of the best experiences of my life. And it was two teams just wanted to play the game, and I was just there running around and just seeing everything firsthand, and it's an unbelievable experience. And
Brilliant.
James, I think if I can come in, I think it's a nice opportunity for young people in South Africa, Marius, today to get involved. And we've got such a high standard of refereeing in this country, and I think we're setting the trend in worldwide standards of refereeing. And lots been said about the quality of refs at Super Rugby or even at Test level. And yet our South African refs, Marius, and is now as a young ref got onto the Sanzar panel. I think it's a nice opportunity for South African refs because we've actually got a name worldwide as a country that produces good refs.
Yeah. Does it help you guys at the Stormers when you've got referees like Marius and Jonathan to talk to in terms of preparation?
It's invaluable to spend time with refs. You know, we've spent time with Marius before as he was coming through the ranks, and with Jonathan, who lives in Cape Town. It's part of the game now. If you want to prepare, to at the highest level, to understand what's the mindset of a ref, the certain trends because refs are like players. They got strengths and weaknesses, and you got to analyze them and understand them to get away with it.
We do. I mean, we've got fantastic refs, guys like Joey Salmon, Matt Kemp, Quinton Immelman, endless list of really, really good referees. And I've never found any of these referees, especially in club space, to be arrogant. You know, they really just love what they do. It's like real passion.
Definitely, yeah.
All right, Greg, now we're going to continue our conversation here with you. I was going to do Lob at Morgan here, but, he hasn't got the best hands anymore. Okay, great. So we've been buggering around a little bit with this kicking tee. Okay, you're the head kicking coach. Kicking coach at Western
Kicking coach. I
don't know how many kicking coaches have you guys got? I suppose you of course got all these different squads.
Yeah.
Under 21s and all that. Okay, so we were fiddling around like how do you put the ball on this tee? We've been talking about this now for a while. Like, we see these guys line these things up, different angles. Yeah, show us. You show us how it is that.
Well, you I think I was gonna.
It's not Morgan's catching, it's your throwing. Look, it's different for every player, JP. So obviously, kicking's all about confidence.
Yeah.
It's like golf. It's the more you practice, the luckier you get. Same with kicking. It's about working out your own routine. So certain players, everyone will have their own little individual style. No golf swing's the same. No kicking style is 100% the same. It's about minimizing error, and through repetition and practice, giving yourself a similar routine that you can focus on, and under pressure won't change, with different weather conditions won't change, and that comes with obviously practice and putting yourself through that position. So that looks pretty good for me. Lining it up with a target, and obviously from there your kicking routine will kick in.
Now, some of the players, they have different kicking tees. I mean, the one we've got there is fairly low on the ground. It's quite heavy. But I've noticed guys like, remember, what was his name? Who used to...
Andre Pretorius.
Andre Pretorius used to put sand out there, and he used to draw his little line out there. And then, you got guys like Butch James, I think, who uses a very high kicking tee. Different styles. Is this, again, the player preference?
Yeah, different strokes for different folks, I suppose, is what works for them. And once again, my philosophy is to keep it simple, stupid. Make sure that you've got a repeatable routine, reducing error, and something that works for you in training, can work for you in the game, whether there's 40,000 people or one person, whether the wind's blowing and it's raining in Cape Town in winter, or it's half-halt at the end of the year.
So it's a little bit like golf, where a kind of a short swing would work for you, as opposed to when I'm doing a swing, it looks more like Happy Gilmore.
Look, I think Percy Montgomery was a classic example. He went over and played in Newport, and he came back with a different two-step little run-up, and he never missed.
Joe
after
Peterson
that.
As well?
Yeah, Joe he went in, funny enough, also struggled a little bit of his kicking routine. Went over to France, just spent time, had nothing else to do. No distractions of the beautiful life we have in South Africa, and he spent a lot of time just honing his technique, making sure that, like I said, it's repeatable with minimum error, and he's kicking well.
The more steps you take, the more chance there are of you maybe stepping 1 centimeter too much. It's a little bit like running hurdles. You've got to be exactly spot on every time.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So I've summed it up now. Okay. Okay. But now, hang on. But now we've got to keep on talking to you about the kicking game here. How much of the game has? The last few years we've seen the kicking game become a massive part of the strategy in rugby.
No, massive. JP. Obviously, kicking for poles is a minimum. Is a minimal part of the game. Obviously, when you've got an opportunity to score points, you're going to have to have an accurate goal kicker. And nowadays, you want to be 80% plus, pushing on 85% to be a world-class standard, and that's important. Winning games is about taking your opportunities, and whether that's a try or 3 points, you've got to be able to take it. But that's a small part of what we term the kicking game, which I'm responsible for. It's about how you're getting out of your own half, how you're relieving pressure and applying pressure. And the modern game, put it this way, is unfortunately won a lot without the ball.
Yeah.
And a lot of romantics out there will say, "Oh no, we must hold on to the ball and score tries from our own 22." It doesn't happen. And if you look at a team like the All Blacks, and if you can even watch how well the Sharks played against us in the Currie Cup final, a lot of what happens without the ball is leading to top teams winning tight matches.
Will you analyze games? During the pre-match, like your coaches would analyze scrums and runs and so on. So you would analyze perhaps where and when you would kick onto your opposition.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, you'd analyze where they kick off. For instance, 50-meter kickoff. What is their exit strategy? Do they look to hold on to the ball for 2 or 3 phases and then look for space in behind? Do they kick straight away? And then obviously you work out where you want to kick off. Similarly, where do teams kick onto you from a 50-meter kickoff, for instance? Or if they've got a scrum in their own 22, what do they do? If you've got a scrum in your own 22, where do they put their wing and fullback? Where is the space? And then obviously, a big stat that I think the people must understand out there is 65 to 70% of tries come from lineouts and turnovers. Those are the big source of tries. So if you can get a turnover from the opposition, you'll score points. Or if you can get a lineout, you can score points. Okay, but 90% of tries are scored if the ball is if you get the possession in the opposition half. Right. So it doesn't help you get a line out or a scrum or a turnover in your own half. Tries are scored from gaining the possession in the opposition half. And I'm using Super Rugby stats from 2013. And 70% of tries in Super Rugby, there were 585 tries scored. 70% of those tries were scored within 3 phases. So in other words, only 2 tackles were made.
Has that got to do with the fact that perhaps the other team's defense isn't ready?
That's the thing, especially from a turnover, is that you are playing against an unstructured defence, and that's where the kicking game has become quite prevalent over the last 2-3 years. Defences have improved.
Yes.
People are analysing attack, and they're doing a lot of work on defence. They're more effective in the breakdown with less numbers. Therefore, they've got people on their feet to add more numbers in the defensive line. And that's where the kicking game is brought in, to find space in behind which can break up a defence. If you win that ball back, you're playing against an unstructured defence. If that team feels the pressure of gaining the ball in their own half and just hack it back to you, and you've got people in place, you are now attacking against unstructured defence. And that's the art of the kicking game, is to work out where that space is, putting it into that space with pressure, and applying pressure so that they either turn the ball over or kick it back to you, and you can attack against unstructured defence.
Okay, so what we want to get from you here, because we don't often have an opportunity to sort of tap into your expertise, guys like Steph's expertise, Alistair Kutsia. I mean, when we get you guys, and Marius included, we're stuck with the likes of Morgan here, so we have to just deal with it. Anyway, no, Morgan, so I know that you're on top of your game. Let's quickly ask you, for the clubs out there, because I think this is what we want to bring into the picture, is we want to make sure that they gain something from you. If you were to give advice to a club who probably only has a front, forwards coach and a backline coach, they haven't really decided on having a kicking coach yet, but maybe they want to look at getting a kicking coach. What sort of advice would you give them? How do you start? Or would you say maybe the backline coach can do the kicking coach work?
No, I definitely think the backline coach could. I think there's only been a kicking coach in some of the provinces over the last 2 to 3 years. Invariably the backline coach has got a few hats on, and he could definitely do that. I think just the understanding of the game, where the game is at the moment. I think a lot of people have got a, call it a romantic view of what's happening, and people get critical watching games and say there's too much kicking or whatever. It's not the amount of kicking, it's the effectiveness of the kicking. And a classic example for me was the way the Sharks outkicked us in the Currie Cup final, and it was disappointing for us. We were not good on the day. They kicked 40 times in that match, and people criticized, and a lot of people came to me after the game and said, why did you guys kick so much? And I said, well, we kicked half as much as the Sharks. And the point is, they kicked into space, they applied pressure, and we didn't handle that pressure well. And I think the All Blacks are really effective at what they do at the moment. And South Africa it's been our strong point as a test playing nation, and the Bulls have been the leaders in that for a while at Super Rugby level. So it's a massive part of the game.
All right, folks, that brings just a whole new dimension into coaching at club rugby. Start thinking about getting a kicking coach into your game as well. And start building that I think with the likes of the support structures at Western Province Rugby, with the coaching courses, you'll be able to tap into the knowledge of what's happening in terms of the kicking game at Western Province Rugby. Stick around, we'll give you a chance to win the Amaboka Boka Rugby Ball and Lexar Flash Drive in a minute or so. But now, of course, it is the Varsity Cup Sevens tournament happening at Camps Bay over the weekend. Varsity Sevens Camps Bay, 29th to the 1st of December. There are most tries of the tournament. There's going to be a 500 Rand Cell C voucher, Samsung Galaxy S4 Actives. FNB player of the tournament wins 1,000 Rand. There's other fantastic prizes courtesy of Cell C, FNB, Samsung and Steers. There's going to be Samsung lounges, music, promotional handouts, professional beach volleyball also on the beach. That will be something that you definitely want to go and watch. Just check out the volleyball while you're checking out the sevens. So sevens rugby, all the varsity teams are going to be down there. That's at Camps Bay, I think across the road from the beach on the 29th through to the 1st of December. So make sure you get down there. You can also check that out on Facebook. But if you want to win for yourself a Synergy Whey protein as well as a Shaker 600, all you need to do is SMS the word EVOX to 33280. That's the secret word, all right, that you would have had to guess. Okay, so Synergy Whey Protein, there you go. It is the official whey protein of the DHL Stormers and Western Province Rugby. Synergy Whey Protein, their favorite product, as you heard Stefan de Toy tell you last week. And of course the Shaker 600, which I'll quickly show you. Okay, there you get it. You open it up, you put the thing inside, you put the other thing inside, and you close it up again. You've got your Shaker 600. Okay, it's all in here. Together, this whole package. All right, 33280. Tell us who is the official sports nutrition supplier to Western Province Rugby and the DHL Stormers, and tell us their favorite product. Just SMS your name and answer to 33280. Congratulations to Kim Schonefeld. Congratulations, Kim. You win for yourself a Synergy Whey Protein and a Shaker 600, courtesy of Evox Advanced Nutrition. We'll take an ad break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up the show and give you a chance to win that Amaboka Boka Rugby Ball as well as a Lexar Flash Drive. See you in a sec. Right, folks, Amaboka Boka Rugby Ball up for grabs together with the Lexar Flash Drive as well as the kicking tee. Just SMS the word rugby to 33280. You put yourself in the mix to win this. Congratulations to last week's Amaboka Rugby Ball winner. Wins the Lexar flash drive together with the ball, and this, of course, the Cape Rugby TV combo prize. Congratulations there to last week's winner, Ahmad Isaacs. But of course, last week you saw the Luco competition where we asked you to guess whose hand it is. Let's quickly take a look. There you see the hand right now. Now, who would guess whose hand that is? There you see the Luco strapping. The hand is wrapped. And can anybody guess whose it is? Okay, now let's zoom out, and there we see the full picture. It is Morgan Newman. Congratulations, Etienne Pokbas. Etienne wins for himself a Luco hamper. Of course, international fixtures coming up over the weekend. It's Wales up against Tonga. It's Italy up against Argentina. Scotland take on Australia. France take on South Africa and Ireland, are up against New Zealand at Lansdowne Road. Yeah, folks, well, that is, of course, a wrap of the Cape Rugby TV show. Morgs, you're ready for action for a relaxed rugby weekend?
Yeah, no, look, there's the rugby never stops, when you're in front of the couch. So there's a lot of international rugby, and I look forward to the Springboks taking one over the French. It's not going to be easy at start Francais, but the boys will do well, I'm sure.
And Greg, it is, of course, Wednesday today. You guys have just started with practice. How are the guys feeling? Are they ready to go?
Yeah, the coaches are back in the office today. The players arrive on Monday, so everything's ready for them. Our last weekend off for a while, so it'll be good to watch Test rugby on the couch. And we're back into full swing for come Monday, where the players are arriving back for their pre-season. Yeah. Obviously, Steph the Toy keeping them fit and ready for exciting season next year.
No, well, I must say thanks for joining us. We love having guys from Western Province here. For many, many years, our club people never got a chance to meet you guys, see you guys, and the show. Now finally we have opportunities, for you to speak to your fans, because as much as you might not be on the field running around, everybody's watching you guys as well. They're watching like you and Steph and Jock, and well, that's the doc and that's the manager, and so it's been fantastic having you.
Thanks, it's been a lot of fun.
And Marius, you're of course heading overseas one of these days to go to some of the international rugby courses and get yourselves ready for refereeing the Super 15. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've got quite a busy time ahead. On the weekend, I'm going to Dubai for the sevens, and then down to PE, and then some couple of trips to Australia, to Vegas, and to Wellington. So it's a busy time ahead.
Yeah, I don't know, Craig,
the glamorous life of a referee.
It's the hard life of the referees, right, folks? That is, of course, the end of the Cape Rugby TV show. Remember, we'll see you again next week, same time, same place. But remember now, the telethon coming up, where we're going to be raising funds. I think that's on the 6th of December, and of course, the Varsity Cup Sevens happening at Camps Bay Beach on the 29th to the 1st of December. Make sure you get there. We'll keep promoting. We'll bring you some of the action. That is a wrap from us. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place. Have a fantastic rugby weekend. Bye-bye.